Nice and loud.
Old age is a reality, you know. So some of the practices that we've been reviewing of yoga which are aimed at stilling the mind have included the typical sort of vipassana practice of watching the thoughts until they stop passing by without acting upon them in any way, creating a stillness in the mind, possibly enhanced by stillness in the body through asana or meditation. And this experience is narrated in mantric form by Sri Aurobindo in the Book of Yoga, the canto titled Nirvana and the All Negating Absolute. And you know, this idea, the all negating absolute, it's an idea that I have emphasized in my new publication titled Journey to the House of Light. The absolute negation, Charles just got a copy of it. The absolute negation is the negation of the void by the divine truth of being. And the reverse is for the consciousness of the human being to negate nature and mind, to realize the origin, the divine will and beauty and truth of the divine. So the divine negation of the void requires the void's negation of itself in the form of prakriti to reunite with the source. And this practice of stilling the mind is a negation. But it's a negation that leads to an affirmation. The affirmation of the truth of being, which is grasped directly by consciousness in the self. So the self is this and the self is that, but the negation is required for one to give place to the other, or for the other to give place to the one. So this negation, through silencing the mind, can lead to an experience such as this, that is narrated in Savitri. And hearing it gives the mind an orientation and an image of that which is to be experienced through the practice. And like the divine hierarchy that Sri Aurobindo has emphasized so many times and that I made a chart of, these are tools. The creating an image in our consciousness of a reality that we actually cannot see, but which is the reality, gives the mind a basis for experience beyond its ordinary functioning. So the practice of meditation involves various methods of visualization that are aids. Mantra also is an aid. But mantra is an aid which also has a power to effect, to some extent, a change in the vibrational nature of the hearer and speaker. So when you read Savitri, you listen to what you're reading. Your hearing and your saying transport your consciousness into this reality that is being said and seen. This is a practice, it's an aid, and it is one that Sri Aurobindo has given us, which is of particular power, the mantric power. So I will read a few lines here. That are expressive of this method of meditation. Although his ego claims the world for its use, man is a dynamo for the cosmic work. Although his ego claims the world for its use, man is a dynamo for the cosmic work. Nature does most in him. God, the high rest. Only his soul's acceptance is his own. This independent, once a power supreme, self-born before the universe was made, accepting cosmos, binds himself nature's serf, till he becomes her freedman or God's slave. This is the appearance in our mortal front. Our greater truth of being lies behind. Our consciousness is cosmic and immense, but only when we break through matter's wall. In that spiritual vastness can we stand where we can live, the masters of our world, and mind is only a means, and body a tool. For above the birth of body and of thought, our spirit's truth lives in the naked self, and from that height, unbound, surveys the world. Out of the mind she rose to escape its law, that it might sleep in some deep shadow of self, or fall silent in the silence of the unseen. High she attained and stood from nature free, and saw creation's life from far above. Thence upon all she laid her sovereign will, to dedicate it to God's timeless calm. Then all grew tranquil in her being's space. Only sometimes small thoughts arose and fell, like quiet waves upon a silent sea, or ripples passing over a lonely pool, when a stray stone disrupts its dreaming rest. Yet the mind's factory had ceased to work. There was no sound of the dynamo's throb. There came no call from the still fields of life. Then even those stirrings rose in her no more. Her mind now seemed like a vast empty room, or like a peaceful landscape without sound. This men call quietude and prize as peace. But to her deeper sight, all yet was there, effervescing like a chaos under a lid. Feelings and thoughts cried out for word and act, but found no response in the silenced brain. All was suppressed, but nothing yet expunged. At every moment might explosion come. Then this too paused. The body seemed a stone. All now was a wide, mighty vacancy, but still excluded from eternity's hush. For still was far the repose of the Absolute, and the ocean silence of infinity. Even now some thoughts could cross her solitude. These surged not from the depths or from within, cast up from some formlessness to seek a form. Spoke not the body's need, nor voiced life's call. These seemed not born nor made in human time, children of cosmic nature from a far world, ideas, shapes, incomplete armor of words, posted like travelers in an alien space. Out of some far expanse they seemed to come, as if carried on vast wings, like large white sails, and with easy access reached the inner ear, as though they used a natural privileged right to high royal entries of the soul. As yet their path lay deep concealed in light. Then, looking to know whence the intruders came, she saw a spiritual immensity pervading and encompassing the world space, as ether, our transparent, tangible air, and through it sailing tranquilly a thought, as smoothly glides a ship nearing its port, ignorant of embargo and blockade, confident of entrance and the visa's seal. It came to the silent city of the brain, towards its accustomed and expectant cry, but met a barring will, a blow of force, and sank, vanishing in the immensity. After a long, vacant pause, another appeared, and others, one by one, suddenly emerged, minds unexpected visitors from the unseen, like far-off sails upon a lonely sea. But soon that commerce failed. None reached mind's coast. Then all grew still. Nothing moved. anymore. Immobile, self-wrapped, timeless, solitary, a silent spirit pervaded space. In that absolute stillness, bare and formidable, there was glimpsed an all-negating void supreme that claimed its mystic nihil's sovereign right to cancel nature and deny the soul. Even the nude sense of self grew pale and thin. Impersonal, signless, featureless, void of forms, a blank, pure consciousness had replaced the mind. Her spirit seemed the substance of a name. The world a pictured symbol drawn on self. A dream of images, a dream of sounds, built up the semblance of a universe, or lent to spirit the appearance of a world. This was self-seeing. This was self-seeing. In that intolerant hush, no notion and no concept could take shape. There was no sense to frame the figure of things. A sheer self-sight was there. No thought came. Emotion slept deep down in the still heart, or lay buried in a cemetery of peace. All feelings seemed quiescent, calm, or dead. As if the heartstrings rent could work no more, and joy and grief could never rise again. The heart beat on with an unconscious rhythm, but no response came from it, and no cry. Vain was the provocation of events. Nothing within answered an outside touch. No nerve was stirred, and no reaction came. Yet still her body saw and moved and spoke. It understood without the aid of thought. It said whatever needed to be said. It did whatever needed to be done. There was no person there behind the act, no mind that chose or passed the fitting word. All wrought like an unerring, apt machine, as if continuing old habitual turns, and pushed by an old unexhausted force, the engine did the work for which it was made. Her consciousness looked on and took no part. All it upheld, in nothing had a share. There was no strong initiator will, an incoherence crossing a firm void, slipped into an order of related chance. A pure perception was the only power that stood behind her action and her sight. If that retired, all objects would be extinct. Her private universe would cease to be. The house she had built with bricks of thought and sense in the beginning, after the birth of space. This seeing was identical with the seen. It knew without knowledge all that could be known. It saw impartially the world go by, but in the same supine, unmoving glance, saw too its abysmal unreality. It watched the figure of the cosmic game, but the thought and inner life in forms seemed dead, abolished by her own collapse of thought. A hollow physical shell persisted still. All seemed a brilliant shadow of itself, a cosmic film of scenes and images. The enduring mass and outline of the hills was a design sketched on a silent mind and held to a tremulous, false solidity by constant beats of visionary sight. There was no soul within, no power of life. The brain's vibrations that appear like thought, the nerve's brief answer to each contact's knock, the heart's quivering felt as joy and grief and love were twitchings of the body, their seeming self. That body, forged from atoms and from gas, a manufactured lie of Maya's make. Its life, a dream seen by the sleeping void. It met her as the uncaught, inaudible voice that speaks forever from the unknowable. It met her like an omnipresent point, pure of dimensions, unfixed, invisible, the single oneness of its multiplied beat, accentuating its sole eternity. It faced her as some vast naught's immensity, an endless no to all that seems to be, an endless yes to things never, ever unconceived, and all that is unimagined and unthought, an eternal zero or untotaled aught, a spaceless and a placeless infinite. Yet eternity and infinity seem but words vainly affixed by mind's incompetence to its stupendous lone reality. The world is but a spark burst from its light, all moments flashes from its timelessness, all objects glimmerings of the bodiless that disappear from mind when that is seen. It held, as if a shield before its face, a consciousness that saw without a seer. The truth where knowledge is not, nor knower nor known, the love enamored of its own delight, in which the lover is not, nor the beloved, bringing their personal passion into the vast, the force omnipotent in quietude, the bliss that none can ever hope to taste. It canceled the convincing cheat of self. A truth in nothingness was its mighty clue. If all existence could renounce to be, and being take refuge in non-being's arms, and non-being could strike out its ciphered round, some luster of that reality might appear. A formless liberation came on her. Once sepulchred alive in brain and flesh, she had risen up from body, mind, and life. She was no more a person in a world. She had escaped into infinity. What once had been herself had disappeared. There was no frame of things, no figure of soul. A refugee from the domain of sense, evading the necessity of thought, delivered from knowledge and from ignorance, and rescued from the true and the untrue. She shared the superconscious high retreat beyond the self-born word, the nude idea, the first bare solid ground of consciousness. Beings were not there, existence had no place. There was no temptation of the joy to be, unutterably effaced, no one and null. A vanishing vestige, like a violet trace, a faint record merely of a self now past. She was a point in the unknowable. Only some last annulment now remained. Annihilation's vague, indefinable step. A memory of being still was there and kept her separate from nothingness. She was in that, but still became not that. This shadow of herself, so close to naught, could be again self's point de vue to live, return out of the inconceivable, and be what some mysterious vast might choose. Even as the unknowable decreed, she might be naught, or new become the all. Or if the omnipotent nihil took a shape, emerge as someone and redeem the world.
Now, what did you just read?
Canto 6 of the Book of Yoga. I was planning to introduce the idea of Tantra. We might consider it the yoga of integral Tantra. The idea that from this stillness, the self receives the influx, the downpour of the divine Shakti. And that becomes the energy that moves us in life. That becomes us. We become that. The divine force itself descends from our higher self into this lower self that has made the empty space for it. And this is narrated in the next canto, the last canto of the Book of Yoga. It is also narrated at several other points throughout Savitri. There are often these sections of emptiness and silence and stillness, absolute emptiness, achieved by the yogi Aswapati, father of Savitri, the goddess, on his way to the absolute, which enables the goddess to descend, which convinces the Divine Mother that he is a ready recipient of her energy. And this is all symbolic, as I said, of the liberation of the psychic being from mind, life, and body into the consciousness of its identity with our higher self, and that higher self, which is the will of and power and beauty of the truth, descends then into this lower portion of itself and acts through the instruments of body, life, and mind. This is the tantric idea. And in the integral yoga, it's not just a brief spiritual experience, and it's not just a release at the moment of death into the higher realms of the being as a whole, the other side, but it is a force that can be activated and applied in life. The transformation by the descent of that higher force enables us to act to be differently in relation to the world, to be a luminous channel in the world, to generate the prana shakti even without the practice of stilling the mind, because the mind has become a permanent channel for that divine will to act in it and in the body. This is the idea of the integral Tantra. It's a relationship that we establish from within with that higher self. And that higher self is the divine Shakti. It is the mother, it is the absolute, it is all the gods that are manifesting through us all the time. It is the all. But it also exists in this trinity of transcendent, universal, and individual. And so for the individual to become identified with the universal, and through the universal to be identified with the supreme, is the return of the soul to the source. It is the purpose of existence in the model of the human being, according to the view of yoga. So these cantos from the Book of Yoga are a very clear depiction of that image of evolution. Regarding the idea, the tantric idea that yoga is a preparation for death, we can see the parallel symbolism of this experience of emptiness, and there's that line which says, sepulchred alive in brain and flesh. To be sepulchred is to be dead and buried. And so to experience a degree of stillness and detachment comparable to death is a means of preparing for the release at death of the soul, the psychic being, and its ascendance to its home and its rebirth in whatever form that unknown decrees. So there's a canto earlier in Book 2, Canto of Aswapati's Ascent, in which is described that process of rebirth, ascent through the plains and rebirth. If you're familiar with Savitri, you know that there is that section, and there are several sections that describe similarly this reality of our progress. So I would like to read that section, and perhaps one more after that.
Would you like to take a break?
No, what I'll do, instead of taking a break, because the time frame is so tenuous here, I will stop the recording. If you need to leave and go to bed, that's okay. But I don't really want to take a break. I'm just going to stop the recording and then start again.